The houses we wake up in, the schools we send our children to, the infrastructure we use to get to work, the utilities we rely on, the hospitals we use when we're feeling sick, all of that is built and enabled by the construction industry. Without this industry, our world would cease to function. The problem is getting the rest of the world to see that and to fully appreciate that. If we don't tell our story as an industry, other people are going to tell it for us.
Fred, dude, thanks for joining us. Really excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
For those who have been under a rock and haven't seen your stuff, just tell us who you are and what you do.
Yes, so I'm Fred. I'm the founder, face, and voice of the B1M, which is the world's largest and most subscribed to video platform for construction. We've got around 30 million people watching our content a month now across platform. And it's good. You know, our strapline is that we love construction and we want the whole world to love it too. And that's very much the mantra of our content. I started this in my spare room over 10 years ago now, with no money, no backing, and no access to construction sites, and have chipped away at it for over a decade. And yeah, now we're in a great place with a great team and great content. So I love my job. I love the industry more. So yeah, that's the kind of the elevator welcome.
Were you in construction before you started at B1M?
Yes, I was. So actually, going right back to the beginning, I always loved building things when I was a kid. Loved playing with Lego. I was kind of the stereotypical construction child. And then followed it through school, university here in the UK. Trained as an engineer, came out and started working on construction sites in the design management side for a major contractor, actually two major contractors here in the UK. But kind of realized the industry was really misunderstood. So my friends and family had seen me, go through school and college, university, and then go and join construction. They were like, what's wrong with you? What's happened here? Why have you gone and joined a dead end industry? And I was like, that's not what I've done at all. This industry is incredible. We're shaping the world. I'm working on projects that are worth £500 million here in the UK. It was a lot of money. So I think I wanted the world to see construction as I saw it. I knew the stereotypes were bad, but I didn't think they were that bad. So wanting the world to see construction as I saw it, understand it as I saw it, is where I came at it from. Started putting videos on YouTube in my spare time, after work and on the weekends, self-made, self-edited videos that were absolutely terrible. Please don't go and look at them. But from there, I kind of chipped away, built a following, and it's only really the last 4 or 5 years it's really started to take off. It's been a lot of hard graft, which I'm sure many people listening to this can relate to.
I love seeing the journey. So going back to an early episode and seeing where you started versus now, I don't know if you're like me. I can't watch what I made last week. It makes me ill to see it because I feel like I've grown so much.
You can kind of see me aging over the YouTube channel, so you can see as the business has grown and as I've had kids, you can see the kind of the grey hair and the wrinkles setting in. So my journey through life is being immortalized on YouTube now.
I can feel that, especially with the kids aging. Yeah, I definitely feel that.
So we wanted to pick your brain a bit because you get to travel all over and kind of see some really cool projects, right? And so I wanted to push in and just ask a more general question. What is the coolest project you feel like you've covered on the channel that kind of might just be kind of that highlight of this is why the industry is awesome?
Oh, it's such a tough question, and I'm not just saying
that. Yeah.
Genuinely, it's hard because they're all so different. The stuff we did in Tokyo last summer was incredible because it was like being in another world. There's just a completely different culture over there. And the way they approach things is so impressive. The undersea tunnel that we went to go and see in Germany was pretty incredible. They're building these prefabricated tunnel segments that are like buildings, big buildings in their own right, that are then going to float and drag out to sea and sink onto the ocean floor. That was incredible. Skyscrapers always blow my mind, but I think, in answer to your question, the one that really did get me was the dam replacement project we did in Switzerland, just because it had everything. It was an incredible remote location. You were up in the Swiss Alps. The scenery was absolutely breathtaking. And you had this construction crew up there building a new dam in front of an old dam, the 130-year-old dam that was cracking and needed replacing. And just the engineering they were pulling off in that context was extraordinary. They only get to work for 4 months a year because the winters are so intense up there. The snow is so deep, they just can't build during most of the year. So they have a 4-month summer, they have to hit this project. And there's helicopters flying concrete up. There's bases up there for evacuation. There's a snow rescue plant. The place is it was just mind blowing. So that for me, I think, was probably the one it's the one I've definitely most enjoyed making on the ground was the Swiss dam, I'd say.
Process of construction from, region to region all around the world. I'm sure it changes so much. Obviously the language component of it is a little bit different, but you talked about Tokyo. What would be the difference between the way they would build in Japan versus the way they might build in the UK or even in the US?
It's interesting. So there are some differences you get in the actual construction product. So, there are some areas where flood defense and earthquake protection has to be really thoroughly thought about. So there's products I've seen built in the UK that take one approach, that then take a completely different approach in Japan, where there is that earthquake consideration to factor in. But I have to say, I've traveled the world. I've been very lucky to visit 6 continents. And what I found is that construction is construction and concrete is concrete and steel is steel. What varies massively is the culture that those projects are being built in and just the kind of the circumstances that teams are operating in, whether that's the economy, the construction market, the supply chain, the labor pool, the kind of cultural approach to getting construction projects done is really interesting. In the Middle East, it's very much crack on and do it. Tokyo is quite like that as well. There's a real attention to detail in Tokyo that you don't get elsewhere. The US, I find, sorry to say this, but the US I find quite slow outside of private developments. I think public developments are excruciatingly slow. And then Europe's kind of somewhere in the middle. Like Europe does get stuff done, but it can take a very long time. And I've seen that split as well. So, private projects worldwide tend to get going and get built a lot quicker. But then public infrastructure, railways, bridges, dams, that stuff can really drag. And sorry to say, but particularly in the US.
Yeah, it's one of the known issues we have in construction is we don't meet our schedules very well in the United States, and our market's becoming kind of notorious for it. And it is a shame that construction has somewhat of a stigma around it, that people think of it as a job you fall into. It's not, this isn't a job that you go to that people say, oh man, wow, you're going into construction, are you? Like, that's really interesting. So it's one of the pieces of B1M that we wanted to highlight and that we also really appreciate is we feel like we need to create a proper picture, but also a very intriguing and exciting picture of what it is to be inside of and a part of construction. So, and you've done that, but you also have a lot of the passion around it. So I love that you come at that from the eyes of an engineer and that you actually loved it first. So that's really cool.
Fred, you talked about how it feels like construction is misunderstood. And it's kind of a crying shame that it's misunderstood. Why is it important to you? Like, what things are you seeing out there? Why is it important to spread this message of construction being so cool?
Well, at the fundamental level, it shapes our world. The houses we wake up in, the schools we send our children to, the infrastructure we use to get to work, the utilities we rely on, the hospitals we use when we're feeling sick, all of that is built and enabled by the construction industry. And without this industry, our world would cease to function. The problem is getting the rest of the world to see that and to fully appreciate that. Particularly around some of the, the really big projects that really do underpin society, like utilities, like infrastructure, railways, schools, hospitals, those kind of, things that are so essential to our way of life. But I think there's a really big opportunity right now. Today's young generation they don't just want a 9-to-5 job and a salary. They want to feel like they're making a difference in the world. They want to add some kind of social value. They want to feel like they're having an impact. And for me, there's no other industry in the world where you can have a bigger impact than construction. If you want to steer the future of society, come into construction. If you want to shape the schools that young kids are getting their start in life in, come into construction. If you want to have an outsized impact on climate change, come into construction and help us build more sustainable buildings. This is this is the industry where you can shape the future and make stuff happen, and where you can stand back at the end of the day and say to yourself, I built that. Say to your friends and family, I built that, and feel proud of it. And we have this amazing story. We have an incredibly visual industry that's out there. That's all around us. We have these incredible feats of engineering and construction happening all the time. We have an amazing story to tell. We just need to actually tell it. I think that's where my passion for it comes from. That's where the passion and the vision for the B1M came from, was about taking these stories, taking this amazing industry and shining a light on what it's doing. The story's there. We just need to tell it. And as I said, in terms of young people today, there is a really receptive audience there right now. There's an audience that's willing to hear the story and want to see an industry where they can make a difference. So yeah, I think that's why it matters.
A lot of times people talk about going to we'll say like a trade show or to like a school function to try to get kids interested in the trades, right? Or interested in coming into the construction industry as a whole, right? And one of the most overlooked things out there is content, like what you're producing. And so I'd be curious to hear, like, have you seen any sorts of like sparks fly when it comes to getting people to come into the construction industry through the B1M? Have you been able to witness that happening?
Oh yeah, we have. I mean, we've tracked it over the years, and there's over 150,000 people now in schools and colleges around the world that have decided to come into construction as a direct result of being involved or watching our content, which is fantastic. And it's amazing to see that happen. I see the numbers, I see the statistics, but when you actually have those real conversations face to face is when, for me, it really hits home. And you sort of, that feeling of, yes, it's been hard to build this company, but that's what made it all worth it, But to your point, I think, if you think about your kids, think about young people today, they're not going to be excited or really intrigued by something that their parents drag them to in a school hall somewhere. It's stuff they see on Instagram, TikTok, social media that's cool and exciting. That's what they want to do in life. So I think rather than expecting people to opt into the industry, to come and read our magazines or come to our trade shows and career fairs, we need to reach out to them, go to them where they are with engaging content in a format that they're used to consuming. That to me is an obvious thing to do. And it's just about packaging the industry up in a way that is consumable, engaging, and breaks it down for people. Often we have engineering magazines that are written for engineers, architectural magazines that are written for architects, and they do a good job. They serve their audiences, but they don't make the industry very accessible. So putting our story and our impact in a boiled down, distilled down, compelling way, I think is so important.
The metric you just said, 150,000, like directly correlated to like watch B1M content. And then they were like, hey, I really love this industry. I want to be involved. Like, dude, you've made a bigger impact when it comes to labor shortage than like 99.999% of the people out there trying to make an impact. So much appreciated. And I think that that's important for people to hear though, right? Because you're not just putting out content for the sake of putting out content, talking about like this is driving progress in our industry. And I mean, you've had national news coverage around this stuff too, right? And more like worldwide coverage around what you're doing. And so I feel like this is just one of those areas people say, where's the ROI? Where's the ROI on producing content like this? And I'm sure you heard that a lot early on, right?
Yeah. Do you mean in terms of the financial ROI or sort of the ROI to the industry?
I think it's ROI to the industry. We could talk about the financial ROI, of course, but like to the industry as a whole, it's like, why is it important?
Yeah, I mean, and you could easily say, well, let's just take it all away and not bother with it. But I think there would be a big hole there. At the end of the day, if we don't tell our story as an industry, other people are going to tell it for us. Often construction projects will only be on the news if they're late or over budget or something's gone really badly wrong. So in this age of information, if we don't step up and tell our own story and tell our own narrative, it's going to be written for us by other people. And, the things that are unfolding in the construction industry every day, the cities that are being shaped, the project decisions that are being made, the skyscrapers that are being put up or taken down, the railway bridges that are being built or not built, all of that is impacting and shaping the lives of millions, if not billions of people around this planet every day. That's a fact. Now, we can choose to shine a light on those stories, lift them up, and try to understand them better and engage the best people we possibly can in this industry so we can build a better world for our children and our children's children, or we can just ignore it and carry on as we are. So obviously I'm biased on this, but I think construction content is pretty damn important. Not just so we can understand the built world, but so we can build a better world in the future. And I don't think we can just put our feet up and say, this isn't for us. We're not going to do content in the industry. There's no ROI on it, because other people are going to write a narrative for us if we don't write it ourselves.
What kind of advice do you have to the construction industry at large to try to maybe join you in the mission?
Well, I think there's a few fronts here. So on the content side, I think the industry has amazing content, right? We're doing amazing things every day. What never ceases to amaze me, and it's astonishing as I've gone through this journey, is how bad people can be at conveying their story and telling the world what they're doing. I've bumped into people who are building amazing feats of engineering. They're pulling off some ridiculously complex construction sites, but they've got no idea how to present it or convey it or to craft a story. So I think really looking at storytelling, thinking about what engages people, and thinking more intelligently about how we package up and describe the work we do, whether that is you as a board director trying to get people behind your vision, whether you're an HR leader, a resources manager, whether you're trying to recruit young people into the industry, whether you're dealing with stakeholders in the community. All of that, the way we talk about our industry, really, really matters. So the advice I would say is take the industry stories and put them in a way that you would use to describe to your friends and family outside of work. If you were to go to a bar after work and explain something cool you did today, what language would you use? What terminology would you use? And try and bring that into the way you present the work you're doing as a sector. So I think that's the first thing that's really important. Secondly, I would say we need to be better at reaching out beyond our own borders. So talking to industry groups about the industry is great. What we need to do is think, how do we reach people who are currently not affected by or interested in construction? That's the bit about going beyond for me.
I think something that we've seen, construction companies want to kind of isolate what they're doing at times. Like we've actually seen a little bit of secrecy, overthink. Like this is our thing we're doing in this cool way. It's a competitive advantage, and I don't want to show everybody in the world what I'm doing, because I'll lose my competitive advantage.
It's our secret sauce.
It's
right?
It's our secret thing. And so rather than saying I could highlight this and help change the industry around me, there's a little bit of an instinct, maybe this is the US market, but there's a little bit more of an instinct to just kind of put it under a blanket and not allow anybody to see it. So I love the encouragement there. Have you seen any, I know that you're trying to feature and highlight some of the coolest feats of engineering construction in the world, but there have to be times when you want to highlight something that they say, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
You can't highlight this one. You can't tell the story.
All the time. And, we have to have a lot of fishing rods in the ponds to get bites. We have a long pipeline. We have people chipping away at this stuff for a long time. And there are projects I've wanted to tell that we've just been told no. That happened a lot more when I first started. So when I first started, I would go to construction sites like, hey, I want to make a video. And they would be just like, who the hell are you? Just get off our site, go away. That's got a lot better now. We get a lot of people come to us now, which is great. We get a lot of inbound stuff, which is good. And when we do go and ask for access, we normally get the access, which is pretty incredible. And I think the last couple of years, the places we've been and the stuff we've covered has just been extraordinary. Our challenge is expanding the team quick enough to be able to cover it all and cope with it, which is awesome. But yeah, there've been some others where I really do want to cover it, and I just can't. We can't get there because of people saying no, basically. So it does happen.
That's got to be really irritating too, because it's not just that you want to make it; you just want to learn more about it too. Because it seems like you're just a very curious soul around these sorts of stories.
And I mean, the guys are like, I'm on site sometimes. I'm just looking around, looking stuff. And they're like, Fred, we're here to film a video. We've got a production schedule, mate. I'm like, yeah, but it's so cool. Let's go over here, go over there. So yeah, I sometimes forget that I'm actually there to make a video, which the team don't like. But yeah.
So you have to have a really solid producer on your team to keep you in line, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, we have a very good set of producers. So yeah.
Nice. I've felt that pain before. I need that as well. But I want to dig into the storytelling side of things just a little bit more, because when we're talking about the industry needing to get better at this, what resources could you point us to? Because you've become a student of storytelling over the years, right? What sorts of things have impacted you the most when it comes to storytelling, so that people might be able to go out there, people that are listening that own businesses or in businesses in construction, can start telling their story better? They might not have the means to go out and hire a big company to help them out with that, or even find the company that can do that for them. So what things could you point us to that might be able to help us out?
So it's two things. It's making sure you include the why and focusing on keeping it real. So on the why side, I think often the industry can get very tied into what we're doing and how we're doing it, the process, the people, and the program, the minutiae of the contract, all that kind of stuff. And I've visited some amazing construction sites, and I've been standing there blown away at what I'm looking at. And I've got a site manager going, "Oh yeah, don't look at that little kicker over there because it's supposed to be 50 mil higher, but it's not. So it's got to be redone." I'm like, "Why are you telling me about that? I don't care about that. I'm looking at this amazing project. Tell me about the projects. Don't focus on the little stuff. Take a step back and try and connect your audiences with not the what, not the how, not the process, but the why. Why are you doing this? What impact is this going to have? It's going to connect. I've seen tunnels that are going to connect two countries. I've seen dams that are going to save the lives of 60,000 people. I've seen other dams that are going to enable entire subregions of continents to have hydroelectric power. These are massive, massively impactful projects. And we covered a dam last week on the B1M about it's in India. And it's not just dams, I should say, guys. I've talked a lot about dams here, but that's one where they're stopping flooding and droughts. So they're capturing floodwater to prevent it hitting floodwaters. It's floodplains, areas that are prone to flooding, and redistributing it to areas that are suffering from drought. That's potentially going to impact up to 50 million people. These are extraordinarily impactful projects. And I think if we can, as an industry, always get that why in there, that's how you connect it and help it make sense to people. Because then all the stuff about why you need X amount of concrete and the world's biggest crane and that piece of steel in that location all suddenly makes sense to people, because they understand what it is you're trying to achieve. They understand the purpose and impact of construction, and it instantly makes it more compelling. The other thing, as I said, is keeping it real. So I don't know about you guys, but there's a lot of jargon in construction that I come across, particularly in press releases. Sometimes you get a press release and you're like, I have to literally translate this thing to work out what the hell is actually happening and going on. I think using real language. So again, like I said a moment ago, trying to make stuff casual, colloquial, describe it to someone outside of work, outside of construction, and see what kind of language you use. That will make it engaging. And if you make it real, if you keep it normal and human, people are going to connect with that a lot more. It's why podcasting is so effective, because people hear that very natural conversational tone and they relate to it, they tune into it, they listen to it better than a formal presentation or a formal press release or a very formal speech given at a trade show somewhere. So keeping it human, all warts and all, humor, the bad days, the good days, the stuff that gets you down, the stuff that makes you feel on top of the world, telling all that and keeping it real and human is what's going to cut through to people. Storytelling is the way human beings exchange information. It's the way we've passed information down from generation to generation. Stories work because we remember them. We only do that because there's an interesting hook, because it's kept real and human, not because it's told in a very dry, boring way in an engineering journal.
The best teachers are the ones, they don't speak in the lofty terms. You can have an academic that speaks in a language that it seems like it is foreign. You can't even understand them because all of the words are big and all of the you haven't heard the acronyms before. You don't know them. And rather than focusing on trying to sound smart, good teachers tend to focus on the understanding of the audience, and they teach in such a way that the audience can capture it. And I think that is something that's very cool about the presentation that B1M has entered into. You're giving this to an audience. my kids, for example, who have watched the B1M, watching educationally and seeing a mega project, but not looking at it as a, I'm watching dad's construction video. It's oh man, that is a cool thing. And it's being, shown to them in a way that they can engage it. So I think that it may back me up here. I think that we need to engage that next generation in that way. We're really grabbing at that here, especially in the United States, trying to, how do I tell the next generation of people that what I do is really cool and you want to do it too? But then speaking to them in alphabet soup that they don't understand. It's frustrating.
Our background is in structural steel detailing. So it's really hard to explain that at a party, right?
Subsegment of a subsegment.
Right.
Yeah. What do you do?
Crap. You can work for years to try to refine that. And we have, but it's still difficult. And, but I think that a lot of times, and I see this kind of working with clients on my business, like, yeah, we get so into the weeds on things. We get so down into the minutia and trying to make everything look so pretty and perfect. And like the world is, in our world, nothing goes wrong. Nothing goes wrong ever. And I love what you're saying here, man, because show it warts and all, because I feel like people respect that more. You gain more trust with people when you're able to speak like that. And I think that's why your stuff has resonated with so many people, is because you share that. You don't just paint this pretty picture of everything's perfect. You make it pretty, but you give some facts.
I have a question.
Eddie finally has a question. All right, let's go.
Eddie has a legitimate question. Eddie enters the conversation. How many times are you on a site? You said, the people on site are looking at the kicker that's supposed to be so high and it's not. Like, how many times are you on site and you got to go through some insane process of just looking for safety violations in the video? Like, somebody's like overly concerned about safety violations showing up in the video. I know
that's a good one.
Yeah.
I'd want to know that.
I'm not going to say does it happen. How much does it happen?
It's something that comes up. Obviously, when we're on construction sites, we know we've got extraordinary access, and we've spent often a lot of time and money getting to that point where we can actually turn a camera on that construction site. So for us, having health and safety violations and things that are going to get stopped and blocked in the review process is really annoying for us, because it means we can't use those shots. So myself and my team have got really good now at spotting what those health and safety things should be, and making sure that people are on top of them. Not least myself, whenever I'm in PP on site, I'm always making sure that I'm in a safe environment, wearing the right health and safety gear. And there's a funny side to it, because obviously sometimes we do see stuff that is not right, and we have to sort of say, often to PR professionals and media professionals, hey guys, there's a guy over there doing something he shouldn't be doing. You might want to stop that before we keep recording. So there is a funny side to it, but I think it's also really important. As I said, we've had over 1 billion video views across the B1M altogether now. We've got 30 million people watching a month. There's a really big responsibility there for us to get it right, and to not normalize and show things and to kind of imply that they might be acceptable. And obviously it varies around the world. There are different kind of health and safety regimes around the world. I've been on sites where some of them want gloves, some of them don't want gloves, some want glasses, some don't want glasses, some want hard hats, some don't want hard hats. It varies quite a bit, but we always go with the sort of regional legislation and laws. There's a video we did a few months back on a construction project in the Middle East where there wasn't a lot of health and safety at all. In fact, it was shocking stuff happening on this building. But we talked about it in the video. We said this is not health and safety that's in line with what we advocate or what the industry should be doing. It's very dangerous, but we're showing you the footage anyway because we want to tell you how this building is built. But we're pointing out that that's not that's not good. So yeah, I've seen some stuff over the years. Probably shouldn't share it all in this podcast.
No,
I wouldn't ask you to.
no. We'll turn the recording off. You can tell us now.
That's the after show.
That's the after show.
Yeah.
Nobody gets it.
That's always a side, though. I mean, people talk about Empire State comes up all the time. Empire State, like how quickly it was built, and then immediately after the objection is always entered. Like, yes, but there was like very little safety going on.
Yeah.
When you're putting the Empire State up, but we don't think like regionally that there's a lot of different normal in the world on how it's built, and you wonder, these projects are being accomplished without the safety, health and wellness, in place. But there's a budget and speed time there's a side of it that's getting played in as well. So it still plays out, and we're all trying to figure out like how to protect people and what's required. And some people are trying to figure out what they can get away with.
Going back and looking at like Golden Gate Bridge too, because we did a little deep dive ourselves on that, and that was fascinating.
Net system, everything.
Yeah, the net system, but also just the fact that there were toxins coming off of the paint that, got the guys sick that were out there working. And it's like, man, I'm so thankful that we don't have that anymore. And then, the Hoover Dam.
Yeah, we did a dam story.
They're
damn good.
Gotta.
It was damn good. Yeah, there was, which I saw the Hoover Dam for the first time when I was flying out to World of Concrete.
Nice.
Which I was pretty excited about. We flew past. I'm like, hey, look at that. And I'm like going and laying on laps because I was on the wrong side of the plane, trying to look through the window, and everybody's like,
and all your friends.
Yeah. No. I need a hat that just says construction nerd. Don't mind me, I'm constantly looking up or, all sorts of stuff. But I wanted to ask you, this might be fun. You don't have to get it specific with it. Have you ever had a video project that just got completely shut down? Like you shot the whole thing, it's ready to air, and you're like, nope, can't do it.
Yes, I have in the early days. Yes. And actually we've got most of our processes and controls now, and our production process has been born out of kind of speed bumps and errors over the years. So yes, I had a project where I'm not going to name the project, but we flew a long way, filmed it. We're paid to film it and everything, but the client who asked us to do it hadn't got permission from the ultimate developer, so it was blocked to be released. I mean, we now have this is going back 7 or 8 years now, but we now have a much stricter process on making sure everyone's actually bought in, and even though your project team and your client are all bought in, is the ultimate client, and everyone that could possibly be involved in this building or project all bought in. So that takes a bit of time, but it is, it's an important thing that we have to go through now. So yeah, I mean, I think the other thing is that's kind of like fallen a bit by the wayside because most places now know that we're coming and filming there, which has actually got a bit intense. I was filming some stuff, actually the last 2 weeks I was in Germany and then the US, in the Northeast US recently, and there were media crews and photographers on the site photographing and filming us filming the video because they wanted to do extra media and write-ups on it, which was just like, I was like, what's going on here? This is...
You have paparazzi, Fred. Look at you, man.
And then like, obviously,
congratulations.
We get to like perfect what I look like, I get to edit it, but then they just publish this stuff. And it's like me eating a cereal bar. Yeah, it's just terrible.
It could be worse. It could be much worse. Breakfast burrito, anything like that.
I told you guys not to bring that up, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. I didn't realize that was in your writer. Oh, dang it. All right. So I want to kind of look at the future of everything with you here. Like, you're seeing a ton of things out there in the space. What do you feel like is the most exciting thing that's happening in construction over the next 10, 15 years?
So this is a bit of a boring answer, right? But there's loads of cool stuff happening with robotics and AI and digital technologies and digital collaboration platforms, which is really cool. But the thing I'm most excited about is the generational change that's going to happen in the next 10 to 15 years. So we're going to have a lot of people who've been in construction for a long time retiring, and we're going to have a lot of new people coming in. And I think that generational change and that kind of behavioral change is going to do so much for our industry across across so many levels, from the way we talk about the industry and our content to the way we deal with each other in businesses, between contracts, the way we innovate, the way we approach projects. It's so exciting. I know it's not a technology, it's not a new innovation, it's just kind of the passage of time. But yeah, for me, I see the next 10, 15 years being about that new generation coming in. And that for me just unlocks so much stuff. So yeah, bit of a boring answer, I know, but that's what I'm most excited about.
That's not boring at all. That because I mean, you think about the possibilities. Because I mean, yeah, I'm looking at my kids, and like they've never known a day without cell phones or without, well, they don't have cell phones, but like their parents looking at
yours.
cell phones. They've never had a day where tablets didn't exist or any of this. And I'm like looking at them going like, what is this world going to look like when you finally get to 18, 19, 20 and you start entering the workforce? And then into the AI component of this, holy cow, like how are we going to work in the future in tandem with this? And the problems that we're getting ready to solve because of some of these technologies that are coming out, but also the generational shift that's happening, it's going to be wild to witness. It's kind of that golden era, it's the golden age of construction. There's so much happening right now, and how exciting that we get to be a part of it and watch it all happen, right?
Yeah, it's awesome. I don't know about you guys, but I find like sometimes I think about the world I grew up in and the experiences I had. Obviously, you're trying to impart that to your kids, but you just realize that they're growing up in a completely different world to the one that we grew up in. I make myself sound very old here, but it's just, as a parent, you're kind of like, well, I'm navigating this too, so bear with me,
I love that answer. And the reason I love that answer is because it's such a spin on what you normally hear about a generation that is leaving. Like you hear about the generation leaving the workforce and you hear all these stats that make it very scary.
Yeah.
People are scared to death of the boomers leaving construction right now, the massive people leaving. It's a great spin, great spin to think that this new generation is going to have to figure it out in a different way. I really like that take. And I think we're witnessing it. We are. We've been talking about, this construction renaissance or what. I mean, it's something that we have talked about on repeat. But I think all of these tools that we talk about and everything that, maybe a little shinier. It's like it's coming back to the people, our processes, the application of ideas, where these tools are entering like into the marketplace, but they're landing in the hands of people. And then they're learning how to use them and then feeding back to the tool makers. And now all of a sudden we start changing the way we do it. Cause like, we've got a new tool now. Maybe we need to refine the process a little bit and, not take the Ferrari to the grocery store. Like, there really is. There's a lot of refining of ideas right now.
I would take the Ferrari to the grocery store in a heartbeat, dude.
What if you need a lot of groceries?
I don't care.
If I
make multiple trips.
If I had a Ferrari, I'd take it everywhere just to say, like, no matter how practical it is.
Get a trailer. I'd get a trailer for the groceries, man. That's it.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, I think it's an interesting time. I mean, back to the world of concrete side of things, guys, like robotics, it's insane. Like everywhere you turn at that show, it's robotics right now. It really is down to, I mean, I saw this. So there's a rebar tying robot it wasn't the one that goes across the bridge, Fred, but it was the one that sits on the actual bars and just crawls and ties. And they had like 2 or 3 of them on a mat. And it was just going along and tying everything.
8-inch centers.
8-inch centers. That was the limitation, but it was a prototype.
It won't be for long.
It won't be for long.
No.
But you're looking at that going like, oh my gosh, man. You think like one of these kids, like our kids are going to be out there just like monitoring the robots and troubleshooting that stuff instead of bending over in the heat all day long, tying this. And I'm like, that's kind of a better situation if I'm honest. So, you would have preferred that back in the day.
Oh, you believe it. Yes. I hated tying mats. But I mean, it's cool to think that you go from, and that's not saying this was a bad process, but a large robot on like a gantry that takes a pretty good while to install to something that's like it's small and could just be placed on the mat. So there was like a refinement of ideas going on there, right?
Yeah. Well,
And
they're competing ideas.
yeah,
That's the other fun part is there's a bunch of those happening too. So it's like
well, somebody looks at it and goes,
Battle of the Robots. It's
I bet
BattleBots.
I could do that with less resources. I bet
Yeah.
I could do that with, a little less. And so that's innovation. Like that competition's healthy and good. I like it. We both, claim to fame here. We got to do the Bluebeam Road shows, and you did the Bluebeam Road show when it went over to the other side of the ocean, and
we got to do the ones here in the States.
yeah, we
So
told them they were getting a much
they were leveling
better
up by
front end of the show when they got over there with you. So
I heard mine was the best attended. Everyone loved it much more than yours, is what I heard. So
I heard that too. I'm not even upset about it. I was like, yeah, that tracks. That's exactly what I expected.
I hear that stat and be like, yeah, that makes sense.
Well, okay.
Hey, but we visited stadiums though, so
Yeah, where was yours?
suck on that, Fred. No.
Yes, where was yours?
You weren't like the whole stadium wasn't sold out. Like, come on.
No, it was
Well,
like 50 people in a small
no.
room in a subset of the stadium.
It was like the Bud Light room or like the
Yeah,
Pepsi.
right.
No, it was a small room in a big stadium, but it was still a stadium. So
I think the
Very-
fact we're both are, I suppose, the mutual respect we have for each other and the mutual success we've had. So it's an honor to be in your league, guys.
man, yeah, you know,
And likewise.
keep,
I mean,
keep at it, keep at it, Fred. You might get to our level one day. You know, that's the.
It's going down.
It's going down.
backwards.
It's going
Don't
backwards.
do that.
No,
man. Don't
it's
do that.
not.
While
Oh
we're
my
firing
gosh.
shots, you've got a podcast. I remember. Like, what was that called?
Oh, it was the best construction podcast.
As I recall, I think
I have beef.
I know.
I have beef, Fred.
I still think it tracks.
I think it's hilarious. I think it's so great.
We stand by the
I
name.
love it.
We stand by the name. Throw me a better one.
As you should.
No, okay. I saw you guys release it, and I was like, "That's an SEO grab."
Brilliant.
I know it. I freaking know it. And I was cracking up because I was like, "I salute you. This is wonderful." So,
What you don't realize is it's British sarcasm. It's like it's nowhere near the world's best construction podcast, but that's the irony. You know? That's the point.
oh my gosh, I love it so much. All right, Fred. Well, we've gone too long here. We need to let you get back
We're
to
off
making
the rails
videos
now, aren't we?
Yes. All right. So we have our megaphone question that we like to ask everybody, though. All right. So this is just kind of like our eye level. If we gave you a megaphone, not like you need one. I think you got one with B1M. So it doesn't really work as much here with Fred. But, you know,
If we give you a very small platform to speak
if we gave
from,
you a tiny little platform to speak to a few of the construction industry professionals that also know you, I'm positive. What would you want to say to them? Would you want to like
all over again.
all over again what you've probably already said in multiple videos?
No, not at all. Look, I you guys have an amazing podcast and an amazing audience. I wouldn't be here if I didn't think that. Look, for me, I think the industry has never been under as much pressure as it's under now, but we also have the greatest opportunity we've ever had. Like, we're under pressure to build in a more sustainable way, a more efficient way. We've got people leaving the industry. You know, it's really, really difficult. But at the same time, we've got an amazing story to tell. And for the first time in history, we've got the ability to tell that story in our own way on platforms that we can self-upload to. So, you know, the opportunity at this stage to compel young people, inspire them about what we're doing and bring them into the sector is huge. And I think we need to grab that with both hands. So if you're watching this or you're listening to this, I would say to you, embrace the challenge. Don't be afraid to share what you're doing with the world, to talk about it with people, because everything you do, whether you realize it or not, is going to inspire 1, 2, 3, maybe even more young people to make a decision to come into the industry. So yeah, keep going is what I'd say.
That's awesome, man. All right. Well, if you haven't already, go check out the B1M for sure. And the world's best construction podcast is probably worth a listen to. you know, if you got some time after consuming our content,
Yeah, did
you
you
might
hear
want
that,
to
Mom?
step over there.
Don't.
Mom? No, just kidding. Fred, thanks for joining us this week, man.
It's been great. I want to come back now. It's great.